Peter Racy here, Anzac Day Precinct YouTube channel, and this YouTube is a promotional YouTube for the Amiens town on the Granite Belt for the unveiling in Amiens in France of the Australian-French Friendship Bridge that's occurring on the 24th of April 2024. And we are going to look at the unveiling through the eyes of the Amiens gun at the National Australia War Memorial in Canberra. And it's a really interesting story. But first, let's just catch up and get a bit of a briefing on the actual gun itself in Canberra.
Firing 240 kilogram shells. This just absolute mammoth of a gun wreaked devastation everywhere it landed. And on the 8th of August, 3 Australians, part of an expeditionary kind of force, came upon the railway carriage kind of train of armaments, which had been attacked by assault camels. And these 3 Australians, an engineer and 2 sappers, managed to storm, despite heavy gunfire, storm and actually start the locomotive. And despite the first time they managed to almost derail it, they managed to get it back behind lines, back behind Allied lines, and it was captured. It's eventually taken back to Paris as a kind of a war trophy, and eventually shipped back to Australia. And here we find it as part of one of the outdoor exhibits at the Australian War Memorial.
Next, we're going to have a look at the Amiens Cathedral, and it was the shelling that damaged the cathedral that really caused great angst to the people of Amiens, and the reason why even today they celebrate Australia's contribution to World War I. The cathedral is obviously quite spectacular, and it is one of the largest, and by some measure the largest, in Europe. So again, it's not surprising that the people of Amiens got very upset by the shelling of Amiens. Now I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and use a Lego generated infotainment clip on the Amiens gun, as I just find the production amazing and it's really very informative. So I hope you enjoy the clip that is about to play before we get back into this serious business of the unveiling.
Included in the train was one of the massive German railroad guns known as Bruno. Bruno, officially designated SKL-40, was one of several guns repurposed from the retired battleship SMS Essen. It was mounted to a specially designed 20-wheeled rail car weighing more than 300,000 pounds. This allowed the gun to be moved long distances overland while attacking targets from well behind the front lines. An armored crane loaded 11.5-inch diameter shells from an ammunition storage car into the gun's massive breech. These shells, each weighing over 500 pounds, could be fired at targets more than 11 miles away. This particular gun was being used to shell the city of Amiens, scoring several direct hits at the city center and damaging the Amiens Cathedral. The British cavalry quickly moved in and routed the remaining Germans in the area, while the Australian engineers were ordered to take possession of the train. Lieutenant George Burroughs from the 8th Engineer Field Company determined that it could be possible to move the captured train back behind the Allies' lines. With help of 2 sappers, they managed to raise steam in the boiler. They then proceeded to separate the locomotive, gun, and intact ammunition car from the rest of the burning train.
A link to the full YouTube will be in the description, and I just find it really incredible what can be done these days. Anyway, back to the core message. So at the Amiens Legacy Centre at Amiens on the Granite Belt, there is already a Barley Bridge that links the car park and the actual Legacy Centre, including the train carriage. And so the Amiens community is fully engaged in the event that will occur on the 24th of April 2024 in Amiens, France. Now, to the last part of the YouTube, and that's going to be to have a look at what happened to the train and carriages when they arrived in Canberra. And it is a very sad story.
For a brief period, however, the siding did have one unusual claim to fame. After the First World War, a large railway gun, known as the Amiens gun, was repatriated from France to Australia, with the intent to display it at the proposed Australian War Memorial in Canberra. It was transferred by rail, but since the memorial hadn't been built yet, it had to be kept somewhere nearby. So it was placed on the Molonglo siding and remained there until 1927, when it was put on semi-permanent display outside the railway station. During World War II, the bogies and mount were requisitioned by the army to help test new naval cannons, and after the war it was decided to only display the surviving gun barrel, and the remainder was cut up for scrap. The barrel can still be seen today outside the Australian War Memorial.
So in conclusion, can I say that it is not only worthwhile going up to Stanthorpe to sample the wines and have a look at some of the big things, it is also very worthwhile going out to the Amiens Legacy Centre and have a look at some real history and the connection to Amiens in France. Thank you and good afternoon.